Hey there. This is um this is weird. Uh Today I went on an event, a protest event because um I'm finding that left and right it seems like our rights are being threatened. Those of us specifically in the disability community, our rights are being threatened. Um And it's really strange because it really does just come down to rights. Who has the right to live in the community? Who has the right to attend to services? Who has the right to be able to get throughout the community um, through inaccessible or accessible spaces? Who has the right to accessible spaces? What is the definition of accessible? It's different to different people. But what it all comes down to is, and this is what our forefathers in the disability community have been fighting for this entire time, who has the right to the community. And the answer should be everybody. Everybody has the right to the community. But that is not the reality, friends. That is not the reality. So um, today was about consumer directed um, assistance, and I'm shortening it a little bit, but the program is called CDPA. I have attended services. That means somebody comes in to my world and assists me with whatever it is that I need help with. Um, it could be anything from and these are just examples. These are not the specific daily living tasks that I need. It could be showering, it could be cooking, it could be cleaning up my environment, cleaning up my apartment, whatever. It could be anything that I need specifically to be able to stay independent in the community. So I think attendants are great. Fantastic. Here's the thing. Um, the government and for me, my local government, for my legislators in my state, they are all working together to try to stick it to attended services. Without attended services, I won't be able to function in the community. It's bad enough that right now I can't find reliable assistance to make sure that my garbage goes out, to make sure that my bed gets made, or that my laundry gets done, things like that. I'm struggling with that a little bit, admittedly, and more personally. So it's a two-pronged attack, it feels like. One, through my specific state, the state is coming at us fiscally, coming at our fiscal that's a really hard word, intermediaries. And what that means is that if the fiscal intermediaries are not given enough money to cover administrative costs or, just to function really, they won't be able to provide the service anymore. So the state is ultimately trying to narrow down the number of fiscal intermediaries in my state. Great. Fan freaking tastic. Notice my sarcasm. Um, what that means for me is, say I live in one city. Currently, my FI, I'm shortening it, FI for short. My FI is currently in that city. Say I'm fortunate in that way. However, if that fiscal intermediary is, or FI, is forced to no longer provide this service, maybe it'll be in the next city over. Maybe it'll be several hours away. So while I can go in my same city and talk to the organization and make sure that everything is flowing great with my program, I now have to deal with another organization that might be 3-4 hours away. My state's pretty big. So this is where my frustration comes from. If I can't assure my attendants that they will have access to their pay, and it will be prompt and it will be correct, they will no longer work for me. If I cannot ensure their pay as their employer, because that's what I am a supervisor in the CD Pass program, and I am their employer. I hire and fire my own people. They will stop working for me, and then I will be at risk because I will no longer have anyone to come in here or, whatever I need in the community and assist me. So that means I got to figure out all of those daily living tasks by myself. And if I can't do that, guess what happens to your girl? Your girl goes into a facility. Now, I'm 32 years old. I'm pretty comfortable in the community. I have my own life. I have my own job. I have my own car. I have my own house, apartment, whatever. I have my own shelter. And you may have noticed, I have cats. If I go into a facility, all of those things go away. Not only that, but going into a facility will bankrupt me, as does many other people. They keep you in there, but what you don't realize is you're paying to be in the facilities, so it will bankrupt me. This they're doing in a local state level in my state. This is what is happening. So, this is the reason that I went to my capital and I fought along my comrades, committed civil disobedience, and spoke my truth about what would happen if there were changes made to the CD Pass program. What would happen if the state started messing around with my fiscal intermediary? What would happen to my quality of life? All of these things. It's a pretty scary thing. Now, I did mention earlier that this is a two-prong attack, and it is. It is. So, you've got the state coming in, attacking the fiscal intermediaries, right? The FIs. Federally, you have the CARES Act bill. And what that means, what that means for me is, and I don't know why I enunciated it like CARES, but it's CARES. I'm going to try that again. Q-words. Sorry, my accent gets a little ahead of me sometimes. The CARES Act, I'm going to over-enunciate, and part of that is So there's this thing called EVV, electronic visit verification, and it's pretty much what it sounds like. So you say your girl has attended services, and she does. My person comes through, or is supposed to come through, 42 hours a week, for instance. What electronic visit verification does is, or is supposed to do, is it's supposed to verify that the supervisors and the attendants are not fibbing on their timesheets, and it's supposed to be a verification of the hours that they actually used. So what we've heard is that there are different options. This was part of the Cures Act that was put through federally. So all of the states have to do this. Only my state hasn't picked the vehicle for all of this yet. So options include, we can do an app on a smartphone to have an attendant check in on this app. Okay. Or we can do a FOB, FOB, which is it's I'll just show you, because I have a FOB for work. So it's like this, right? You use this thing and you tap it on something. This is just an example for my job. So you tap it on something, right? And it opens doors and whatever. So that's an example of a FOB. The FOB is an option, another option. They've talked about GPS. They've talked about just like many different options, and the states can choose, I guess, for themselves. Although I don't really know at this point, because when you try to ask the state what are they doing, they just go, we're just following orders, which is real comforting when this is something that's going to impact your life and the ability to maintain and keep attendance and gain new ones. So I'll explain the options a little bit. GPS, exactly what it sounds like. You are tracked on a GPS. So, like for instance, I have to go to my doctor. I have to go to my lady doctor, though. My lady doctor is on Lake Ave. And so they would know that I went to this location via the GPS, which is literally tracking every movement that I make in my life, which makes me feel really gross. I don't want to be tracked. I'm a human being. And again, like I mentioned about rights, I should have the right to privacy. You should not be able to know exactly where I go in every minute of the day, because you want to make sure that I'm not committing Medicaid fraud. Do you know how much effort that takes to commit Medicaid fraud when it comes to attendant services? How much effort you have to put into something like that? I'm not committing Medicaid fraud. I don't plan to. Leave me alone. I want to live my life independently in the community. I digress. Anywho. So second option, right? You've got the GPS, you've got the FOB. But the thing about the FOB is you get the fob, and the fob is supposed to be something that, in a perfect world, is kept in your apartment or your home. And your attendant will use that fob to check in and check out of their shift. Only the assumption there is cripples don't go into the community. Why would they have to leave their apartments? Well, friends, Agent Johnson, let me tell you why we have to leave the apartment sometimes. Sometimes we have a job. Sometimes we have to go to the grocery store. Sometimes we go to the doctor's. All of these things. Sometimes we have to go to Planned Parenthood and get ourselves some birth control. Here's where this can go wrong. Now imagine that I have an attendant. We'll call her Teresa. Now Teresa comes in and she has to meet me at the grocery store. And I'm already there. She's late for her shift. And so she just meets me at the grocery store. What that means is Teresa can't use the fob to check into her shift. And so she can't check in until we get home. So really what it says is 45 minutes to an hour later, plus travel time, Teresa has started her shift, which means for over an hour, she's now been working for free. Do you really think after a while Teresa is going to want to meet me in the community anymore? Or is she going to insist that our beginning destination, our beginning origin to go anywhere is my apartment? Which limits my options. Or say Teresa is checking out of her shift, only she gets a little confused or forgetful and she takes the fob with her. Now say I've got multiple attendants and Teresa's in the morning. She takes the fob with her. But then Raquel comes in and Raquel works the next 6 hours, only she doesn't get to check in because Teresa has taken the fob with her. Now imagine, if you will, that this situation gets worse. And not only does Teresa not realize that she's taken the fob with her, but by the time she realizes, she has forgotten where she put it. And now it's lost. How does one get their attendance paid at that point? The next option, they're calling telephony, I think is how you pronounce it. And it's exactly what you think it is. It's you check in via phone. Cool. Only the ones that I've seen rolled out have been on a landline, which, by the way, I don't have. I have a cell phone. But again, the assumption there is that you're starting out in a home, doesn't leave any wiggle room, and if you're checking in your shift on the phone, that means that you have to make sure that you are in the supervisor's home at that point, which, I'm sorry, life happens. There could be doctor's appointments. There could be emergencies. Maybe I got into an accident and I have to go to the emergency room, which, by the way, attendants don't get paid for anyway. But these are just examples. Even if you go with the app version, which has to be on a smartphone. So, say I don't have a smartphone. Say I am 76 years old. I have attendant services. I don't have a smartphone. I never saw a need for one. I have a landline, and my attendant has a smartphone. However, if you put that app on your attendant's smartphone, you're giving them the ability to go in willy-nilly and change the shifts or put in extra shifts that you did not approve because it's now on somebody else's phone. You're taking the supervisory portion of your attendant services, and you're putting it in the hands of the attendant, which is all kinds of like wrong. Now, as you can see, I feel very passionately about this. I don't like the idea of being tracked. I don't like the idea that I don't have answers to anything. I went to they had a series of informational sessions, we'll call them, in my state. And I went to the one closest to me, which, by the way, was not on a bus line, and which means that anybody who had to take paratransit was not able to easily get there. And I asked them a series of questions. One of which was, and I feel like this is pretty a simple question. Say we do GPS tracking, for instance. Where does that information go? Who has access to that information? Who gets to know that I started out at, 123 Greenfield Drive and ended up at Planned Parenthood or, my any other doctor that I don't want people to know about? Who's going to know my schedule for going to Planned Parenthood and getting birth control? What is that information? Where is it going? And when I tell you that they were very unhelpful, I completely mean it. They gave me no answers. No answers. They originally told us that all services had to start in the home, which is very problematic because if Candace wants to go to a tourist attraction and stay there for the weekend, does that mean that her attendant that's coming with her doesn't get paid? Because all of this is linked to the hours, which means it's linked to the timesheets, which means it's linked to the payroll. So if you're saying that the services have to start in the home, do my attendants not get paid if I go? Oh, excuse me, it's very late at night. Do they not get paid for being outside of my home? Is this just more incentive to make sure that we stay at home complacent in our lives? Because I can tell you what would happen. I have 42 hours a week I can use in attendance services. It's hard enough getting attendance. I desperately need at least two. I need a main attendant and I need a backup attendant who can take over when my first attendant is exhausted, because frankly, 42 hours a week is exhausting for a program that doesn't even pay our attendance well enough. So add in this EVV stuff and you're creating a situation where no one's going to want to work for you, because it's a lot easier to work at Taco Bell, Woo, I get $15 an hour flipping burgers or flipping tacos. Um, and it's more money by, for me, at least $4. And it's easier. Yeah, that's pretty much it. That's pretty much all there is to it. And you don't have the hassle of having to deal with the state getting in your business. I am a firm believer that the state should not be in your business. Now, I understand there's benefits and Social Security and all that stuff and blah, blah, blah. Cool. Send me my benefits. Send me my attendance benefits. Whatever. Leave me alone. Let me live my life. The whole point of these programs is to give people the tools they need to be able to live successfully in the community. But how are you doing that if you make everyone feel like they're a prisoner? Now, mind you, all of this leads to institutionalization, because if my attendants don't want to deal with this and they bail on me, I go in the institution. If if I don't have what I need, that's where I land. Plain and simple. So I'm really frustrated because these are really blatant ways to limit our freedom, and have like a big brother overshadow kind of thing going on. That's not even mentioning the systemic BS that's going on in my state, through transportation and through voting access, domestic violence, through sub-minimum wages, all kinds of different systems. That's not even counting that. All of those things that I've mentioned and more are extremely discriminatory. Housing is out of control. We don't have enough accessible housing, which leads to people not being able to get out of facilities. The state is being complacent in our in us being forced into institutionalization because they don't want to properly manage the funds in such a way that we have access to accessible services and supports in the community. Imagine what would happen if instead of putting money into quote unquote fun things for the rest of the state, they shuffled even a little bit of that money into community services, into into accessible, affordable, and integrated housing, into accessible transportation. Imagine that. Do we feel that in doing that, by shifting the money a little bit, maybe taking a little bit of the nursing facilities monies out of their pocket and putting it into community services like paratransit services or accessible, affordable, integrated housing, do we think maybe it would lead to less people being trapped in institutions and nursing facilities where they're being abused just about every single day? Do we feel that? Because I feel that. I've talked to people in my local facilities that are literally there because they have nowhere else to go that's accessible. And honestly, when I was looking for a home, looking for a new apartment, a little over a month ago, I was almost in the same situation. I was seriously considering my options. I was seriously considering what was going to happen if I couldn't find anything. Because although I do have enough money to pay rent at many places, those same places were not all accessible. And frankly, what I kept finding was that, oh, excuse me. What I kept finding was that a lot of the accessible places, they were for seniors, and there was no amount of talking to them or advocating for myself that was going to make them allow me to live in a senior facility. And honestly, I don't know that I would have wanted to live there anyway. But all of these things lead to who has the right to the community. And in a previous video about the Disability Integration Act, I go a little bit into that. Who should have the right to live in the community, who does have the right to live in the community, and blah blah blah. So I won't go over that again here, but when it comes to the current attacks that are going on, I got on my Facebook. So Facebook has this option to look back at your memories, and it shows you what you did on this day in previous years. So I was looking through mine, and as of a year ago, I was in Orlando, Florida, and I was fighting for Medicaid. Why I had to do that was because of the ACA. There were attacks on the Affordable Care Act. There were attacks on Medicaid. There were even people who wanted to completely get rid of Medicaid and start from the very beginning and have, Medicare for all, blah blah blah. A lot of their options, while they might work for them, a lot of their options didn't include long-term services and support, so it wouldn't have done anything for me. It wouldn't have done anything for the people in the nursing facilities. It wouldn't have done anything for anyone who was eligible for long-term services and supports. So I was part of a group that was fighting for Medicaid. And that was not that long ago. Not that long ago, and here we are. We're still fighting, but we're fighting in different ways. We're still fighting to live in the community, but now we're fighting in different ways. They're coming at us from different angles, different programs to attack us, and that's just, it makes me so tired. Having to defend your personhood every single day makes me tired. Having to defend my right to live in the community every single day makes me tired. I broke my hand a few months ago, and I couldn't do anything on my own. And I'm sure I've mentioned this several times at this point, but it's relevant. Because I have attendant services, I was able to convince the hospital to let me go home instead of putting me in a facility, which is what they wanted to do, against my will. I was able to convince them that I was independent enough, even though I could not drive my car to get away from the hospital. I didn't have someone to meet me at the door to get me in the car anyway. All of these things. I had to convince them to let me go. And many people don't know how to advocate for themselves in that way, and they don't know that they're even able to do that. So they don't, and they end up in rehab facilities, and most of them stay there. They get convinced that they are not better and they were not going to get better, and they are forced to stay there. The option to leave isn't even discussed with them. And the ones that are lucky enough to leave get to go home. They're lucky enough because they were deemed healthy enough and not disabled enough to justify staying there. But if you were considered too disabled, then no, you better stay here because we know how to take care of you better than you'd be able to do in the community. And so all of these attacks, right? All of these attacks from different sides, and these are the things that we're fighting right now. We really just get the short end of it, honestly. We have to convince legislators all the time that we need accessible housing, that we need accessible transportation. We have to convince legislators that there are disabled people in the community that want to actually be able to get on the bus or get onto paratransit and go places. We have to defend our right to go and visit family and go out to the grocery store and get to doctors. Like, we have to defend our right to live every single day. And it's 2019. So today was very aggravating for me, but I feel like we made some progress. I'm sincerely hoping that DOH heard us. I sincerely hope that they not only heard us but paid attention, and I sincerely hope that they will make the decision to delay these cuts to CDPA. I sincerely hope that they will use this time to really reconsider their arguments and reconsider their original thoughts, because CDPA affects so many people in the state. There's so many people in this program, not just supervisors, but also attendants who are depending on this for their livelihood, for their ability to live. I know I am. So I'm really hoping the best. I'm trying to stay optimistic about this whole thing, because we will continue to fight if we need to. But I don't know what tomorrow is going to be like, but I have a suspicion that I'm going to go in and I'm going to have to talk to another person who's having another systemic issue, and we're going to have to figure out a plan if possible, because frankly sometimes there just isn't enough resources that go around for everyone. And we will just go in tomorrow and we will do our very best because I would want somebody to advocate for me or to help me advocate for myself. Um, so I try to work as hard as I can to do that for other people who maybe don't understand what their rights are. As usual, I'm going to give you some homework. I want you to look up the Cures Act, CURES. I want you to read up on electronic visit verification, and I want you to look up CDPA. Become familiar with these things. If you're disabled, maybe you already know about those things. If you don't, it would benefit you to read up on it. If you are not disabled, it would still benefit you because, frankly, we need disabled and non-disabled people in this fight. Um, we need a bigger community to fight these things and show them that we really truly mean business, and that we really truly want everyone to have the right to the community. Um, Please like and subscribe on my channel if you like these videos. Um, they're not all serious, but honestly, I could talk disability forever. So like and subscribe. I will try very hard to keep kind of consistent. And I will keep trying to come up with different interesting topics for everybody. So, with that, I hope you all have a great night. I'm going to take my butt to bed and be blessed.